The WiiM product line has a room equalization setting in the menu options. It's called RoomFit, and no matter how many times I used this setting, I was always completely dissatisfied with the sound quality after the correction. Well, the sound was just terrible, so I decided to figure out what I was doing wrong and how I could improve the whole thing. Let's measure what we have right now, not with the WiiM program, but with the REW program. For the measurements, I used a UMIK-1 measurement microphone, which connects to a computer via USB or to a phone, whichever you prefer. And it comes with, or rather, you need to download a calibration file from the official manufacturer's website, which is absolutely necessary. I'll explain the measurement methodology. So we measure how both speakers, the right and the left, sound in the room. So the microphone is placed at the listening position, where we usually listen to music. Each speaker is measured individually, first left, then right, followed by both together. And then correction is applied. So I have two measurement graphs displayed on my screen. We'll turn off the green one for now, that's after correction, and we'll leave the blue one. The blue one is both speakers measured at the listening distance simultaneously. Notice that the bass is quite a bit elevated compared to the axis line. And the peak reaches 96 decibels, while the upper mid-range and the highs drop down to 76.3 decibels. The imbalance in the frequency response is about 20 decibels, plus of course there's comb filtering. I applied so-called psychoacoustic smoothing. If you display it without smoothing, the comb filtering will look so bad it's impossible to view. How do we measure it correctly? There are a few nuances in the WiiM Home app under the RoomFit tab. Well, of course, first of all, we open RoomFit. We set the volume of our WiiM, well, at least to 70, level 70. If it's too quiet, then the app won't measure accurately. Be sure to turn off the equalizer, set everything to 0, and then go to the settings. Pay attention, in the settings we have the first tab, that's curve. Here we have B and K, Harmon and flat. In our case, the goal is to get a flat frequency response, so I chose flat. Next is equalize. From 20 to 20,000 Hertz. By default, the app has this setting. From 30 to 4,000 Hertz. For the most part, this is enough for most scenarios, but since we want to get a better result, I expanded the setting from 20 Hertz to 20,000 Hertz because we have a microphone. Then let's move on. We connect the microphone. The microphone starts working. Yes, and when we connect the microphone, we get the external microphone tab. We have UMIK-1 and we have a calibration file added. Here it is, 717-8416. That's the microphone's serial number. So, everything here is set up. We start the calibration and we stay quiet while it measures everything. First it measures one speaker, then the second speaker. So we don't need to do rotation because we have an external microphone. We do this, everything is working, we can hear everything. Let's go. Here we select individual channel fit room. So we'll measure one speaker first, then the second one, then both together. And after the program measures, it will give us a graph like this. Our measurement is shown in gray here. I think this is one of the first graphs I made, up to 4,000 Hertz. But look, the gray line shows that we have a boost of as much as 10 decibels in the bass. That's a lot, and that's exactly why everyone who came to visit would say, "Arkady, where do you have your subwoofer hidden?" Nowhere. Just speakers placed in this room. Together with the room, they sound plus 10 decibels, from 30 Hertz to almost 60 Hertz. That's what caused the subwoofer effect in muddy bass. And notice that the frequency response is decreasing from the bottom to the top. And accordingly, because of this, the sound turns out the way it does, the dominance of the bass. The pink line is a correction that the program suggests applying in order to achieve the yellow line, which is flat. But I think I didn't have it flat here. Here Harmon was set. But the yellow one is the target that we want to achieve. And the green one is the line that the program predicts that when we apply the correction, we won't actually get the yellow one, but we'll get the green one. This is also a curve, but it's more evened out. We accept all the measurements, and basically that's where the program finishes its measurements. Then we go back to the REW program and independently measure what result we have already gotten. I've already measured it, so I'll show you the result right away. Well, by the way, here's the measurement. Left speaker, right speaker. And the program for each speaker, that's WiiM, shows what we need to change for each speaker. And now, look at REW. The blue line, as I mentioned before, is what we measured in the uncorrected version. And the green one is what we have already corrected. Notice the line is still curved, and that's completely normal. No one will ever give you a perfectly flat frequency response at the listening point. That's basically almost impossible in a regular room. That's why the curve changes. Let's check the unevenness. We've gotten rid of that bass hump. Now here we have, well, let's say for a round figure, 91 decibels. And the lowest point in the upper mid-range at high frequencies is 81 decibels. So instead of a 20 decibel fluctuation back and forth, we now have a 10 decibel variation, which is already twice as good, but still far from perfect. But in general, considering that this small program runs on a phone, it's fine. What did I hear while listening? When WiiM amp was working in an uncalibrated mode, and I liked the sound. It was quite bassy, a bit unclear in the bass segment. Good voice, sufficient highs, everything was very clear and accurate. At that time, as I mentioned earlier, when I turned on the correction using the built-in phone microphone, the sound was terrible, and I always turned it off. After this correction, I noticed the following changes. First of all, the low frequency range became clear. It became distinct, but that excessive amount of bass disappeared. The mid-range became even clearer, although it was already good and comfortable before. Now it's crisp, articulated, very neat. In fact, I would say it's just perfect. And finally, the highs have appeared. If before there was a gap of up to 20 decibels between the highs and the lows, well, look at how we set it now. The lows were at 96 and the upper mid-highs were at 76 decibels. So naturally the highs were, I would say, comfortable. After the correction, the highs and mids were raised, and overall the frequency response became closer to flat, and the sound in the upper range also became much better. But a problem appeared. The amount of bass no longer satisfied me. So I went back into the WiiM settings and turned on the equalizer. And on the equalizer, I added a little bit of bass boost. We'll get to that in a moment. Just a minute. Alright, here we are, bass boost, turning on the bass boost. Look, by default, bass boost gives a really strong lift, but I tweaked it a bit. I added 31 Hertz. Plus 5.3 decibels, 63, 3 decibels, 125, 2 decibels. So I raised it gently like that. And what did I get as a result? I ended up with less bass than I had before. After the correction, but more than before? No, I got less bass than I had before the correction, but a little more than I had after the correction, and the quality of this bass has improved significantly. Guys, I did these measurements for the first time, so I probably missed some nuances. Maybe I interpreted something incorrectly. I know that very experienced audiophiles watch the channel, people who also do measurements and build equipment themselves. So please write in the comments what I did wrong, what I could improve, so that in the future I can give you more accurate and correct information. That's all for now. This was Arkady Zenin from Premium Hi-Fi. We're still in Riga, connecting people with sound. So come visit us at our small cozy shop. and may the force of the right sound for you be with you. Goodbye.